Hey, Kevin here, Skylabs, doing another video. This is going to be a video on JBL. And rather than doing a top 5, I'm just going to do our favorite JBLs. I don't want to put these in order. I would rather just go over some of our favorites and just talk about why we think JBL is one of the best speaker manufacturers on the planet and has been for a long time. You know, there's definitely more expensive speakers out there for sure, but they've got such a great history. They've made so many amazing speakers over the years that you just can't deny JBL or James B. Lansing. And I probably won't get too much into the history. There's so much out there already. And go check out the site. If you have not been to lansingheritage.org, what an amazing site that is. They literally have, I think they're missing 1968, but they've got almost every catalog that's been used over the years to showcase the different models. And so really great site just to go down a rabbit hole on. Just start at the beginning, work your way all the way through. So many cool designs. So once again, that's lansingheritage.org, which is where I got a lot of the information that we're going to be talking about today. All these speakers we are going to be talking about today, we've owned, we've bought, sold, or repaired. So we're not going to be talking about the Paragon, unfortunately. I have not been in a room with a Paragon. I have heard rumors that there is a Paragon in Iowa. If this is true, if anybody knows of a Paragon in Iowa, please let me know. That would be incredible to be able to arrange maybe a day trip to come check it out and maybe let the viewers and myself just see what they are all about. I do believe also that it is the longest in production speaker for JBL, meaning they've made the Paragon longer, more consecutive years than any other model, even though I'm sure they didn't sell obviously as many as, you know, L100s and 4311s and the really iconic speakers. They have been in production longer, or the longest. So I might be wrong on that. And if I am, feel free to leave me a comment. You guys usually do. I definitely learn multiple things about vintage audio equipment daily. If I give you the impression that I'm all knowing or I know everything about vintage audio, I've done a poor job, because I definitely do not. So anyway, before we get into this list, we just launched our speaker stand line. There's only one stand available, but it accommodates so many speakers. And, you know, like this right here, this is what a pair of L100s look like on the speaker stand. So these are made right here in West Des Moines, Iowa. They are available on our website, or if you want to come into the store, they are available for pickup here. You do need to assemble them, as in there are 12 screws that you need to put in once you get them. But if you have a screwdriver and the ability to twist said screwdriver, you can assemble these speaker stands. There are a lot of different images online showing what different speakers look like on these speaker stands. And if you've got a question as to whether or not yours will fit, send us an email. We'll figure it out. And yeah, check out a pair. Really cool. They kind of remind me of the new KLH stands, but they're made out of wood. Not as expensive. I think the KLH stands are almost double the price of these. Anyway, if you're looking for a pair of kickback retro speaker stands, check out the new Skylabs speaker stands at skylabsaudio.com. All right, let's get into this video. Thanks. And the first set of, you know, JBL speakers I want to talk about, it would be the JBL LX44. And a lot of people might be going, what's an LX44? It's really just the first JBL speaker that I owned. And, you know, it was kind of a mid-level to low-level JBL. I think they were the 90s, three-way speaker. I found a pair on Craigslist, you know, must have been 10 years ago or so. And they needed refoam, so I got them for like $40 or something. And they looked really nice. It was the walnut finish. I believe they were available in walnut and black, but I got the walnut version. And I mean, they're definitely, you know, they're not the greatest built thing in the world, but they're not cheaply built either. So I went and picked them up. I didn't even really try them. I made sure the mid-range and the tweeters worked, and I took them home, ordered my refoam kit. I had refoamed my Sherwin Vegas at this point, so this wasn't going to be my first refoam job, but it definitely, it was either my second or my third. And so I had to wait to hear these speakers. I remember I got them home, I got the kit, I refoamed them, waited overnight, and then the next day I put them together and I was like, wow, I loved them. And I still think they're a great sounding speaker for their price point and what they are. The LX series, I think, is really, really good. For a consumer grade speaker, I really like those LX44s. I would buy another set any day of the week. I've had the 22s as well, I think, but the LX44s, I think they made a 55, but I haven't tried those yet. Maybe I should look that up real quick. Hold on. JBL LX55. Yeah, they made a 55 as well. And I haven't heard those. I haven't seen them. There doesn't seem to be a lot of LX44s or 55s out there. I've seen quite a few 22s since we've been open come through. So they must have sold quite a few of those, and they're okay. I mean, for a smaller bookshelf speaker, they're pretty decent. So, and that's the LX line that was made between 1987 and 1992. So, yeah, if you can grab some, grab them. You can usually pick them up somewhat reasonable, and because I don't think they're that well regarded, unless because if you get on Audio Karma or if you get on the online forums, most people that have heard these, especially the 44s and the larger ones of this series, they usually sing pretty high praises for them. So anyway, that's the JBL LX line. Great speaker. And the next one I wanted to talk about are the ones right behind me here. And those are known as either Jubals or L65s, just depends on what year you got, but they're essentially the same thing. The first time I heard these, I knew I was not selling them. I love the tweeter in this speaker, and that's usually what sells a speaker for me. I can get bass with a subwoofer, but a real balanced, delicate tweeter, that there's a fine line where a tweeter is too harsh or it's too subtle. And the tweeter in these I think is amazing. It's a crystal prism tweeter. What's it called? Most people call it the crystal slot tweeter, and I just love it. The speaker does so many things well. It's not, and I think JBL as a whole kind of does this, where I think a lot of the AR and the KLH, they might be a little bit too mellow for some things. Like if you're listening to maybe some harder rock or metal or something like that, to me, the AR and the KLH are maybe just a little bit too subtle, a little bit too neutral, whereas a Klipsch, for hard rock or metal or anything like that, it's too brash. And JBL to me is like right in the middle. Now, on the flip side to that, I feel like, KLH and AR, if I'm listening to like, a female vocal or, piano, jazz, blues, anything like that, it's so good on those more neutral, mellow sounding speakers. But to me, JBL is kind of the bridge between. So I don't think they're perfect at anything, but they are really, really good at everything. That's why I love JBL so much. So the L65s, one cool feature on them you don't see anywhere else really is the glass tops. Being the 70s and the white powder, I imagine these got used quite a bit. It's one of the negatives I have with the L65 in that you can't really tilt them, and they need to be tilted. Otherwise, those tweeters are aimed at your knee. If you're sitting in a normal position, that tweeter's aimed right at your knee. So I have mine on stands to get the tweeter up to ear height, or what I've done is I've used a support piece to hold that piece of glass in, because it'll just slide right off the back if you let it. That glass just sits up there on a piece of felt, and it's framed on three sides, but that back is wide open. So if you were to tilt that speaker back and give it some energy, there's a chance that glass could fall off. So And if you are going to be using it for the reasons in the 70s, you probably want it flat anyway. So maybe JBL just had that in mind the whole time. So yeah, if you're Tony Montana and you want a really good speaker, I think the L65 Jubal, that's your go-to right there. Yep. 70s. Good times. And next I want to talk about the JBL C38 Baron. I came across these in a local, I wouldn't call it a thrift store. What would you call that? Maybe like an antique mall? Yeah, that would be what it is. And they had the price. It was really insane. They sat for, at least a year. And I would just check in with them every once in a while and be like, hey, if you're interested in this price, blah, blah, blah. And finally, they were tired of them being in the store, and I grabbed them. They still had the legs, which are they have these 4-inch metal cast legs that are worth a small fortune because they got lost and whatnot. But the cool thing about JBL, the way they used to sell their speakers was you would pick out the cabinet, and then you would go through and you would pick out the speaker configuration you wanted. Maybe even depending on your budget. So you could buy a full range 12 or 15-inch speaker, and then maybe when you got some more money, add the crossover network and a tweeter if you wanted. And then that's the way you purchased your JBLs, I believe, through the 50s and 60s. At least that's the way it looks in the catalog online. And that's the way this one was too. It was kind of a mystery until I bought the C38s and got them home and was able to see what drivers were in there. And it was a full range 12-inch driver. So I've got a guy that comes into the shop that loves JBL. He saw them, immediately wanted them, and we installed the 075 bullet tweeter, which is, oh my God, what an outstanding tweeter, and a cool looking tweeter too, if that means anything. But like a rock. You put one of those tweeters in your hand. What do they weigh? Let me look that up. Hold on. JBL 075. Yeah, so they weigh 6 pounds. This tweeter weighs 6 pounds. This thing is so heavy. It's just a great tweeter. So we installed the network. The network crossover we put in was a 2400, I believe. Yes, it was an N2400. We put in the 075 tweeter, and then he bought a 15-inch woofer to go where the 12-inch was. And I don't remember what model of woofer it was, but the way they did it was if you got a 12-inch speaker, it had another wood piece that allowed you to install a 12-inch woofer in the cabinet. And then if you wanted the 15, you would just remove that wood adapter so you could put the 15-inch speaker in there. They sounded great before, but they sounded incredible after we installed the tweeter and the network crossover. So what a cool speaker, very iconic. I'm glad my buddy got them because you just don't see them. You don't see them very much. And so anyway, so that is the JBL C38 Baron. What a cool speaker. They look incredible too. They just have the look, they have the sound, they have everything. They have everything you want right there. You can get them, I'd grab them. And the next one I wanted to talk about was the JBL C56 Dorian. It looks like these were introduced around 1966, according to the catalogs online. This is such a cool speaker, and it's got a marble top to it. These are heavy, and this is a good size piece of marble on the top. So they've got this really great look to them. And in the mid 60s, you could see this in a California ranch, or, I don't imagine these were cheap. Another great speaker. The only negative to this was, once again, if they're seated on the floor like they're supposed to be, that tweeter's hitting your knee. They really need to be up on a stand or tilted back. But once you do that, what an incredible sounding speaker. The ones we had a LE14 woofer in it, which I believe it's like a 14-inch woofer. It's kind of an odd size. It had an LX2 crossover in it, and it had a LE20 tweeter in it. And they sounded incredible too. This was several years ago, and the customer still comes in quite a bit, still enjoys them. I've offered to buy them back every time I see them, I think, and I don't think they're leaving his living room, and I don't blame them. You know, once again, you don't see this type of speaker, especially in Des Moines, Iowa. You know, maybe in your neck of the woods, you know, if you're in California or Seattle or New York, maybe these come up more, but not in Des Moines. So keep your eyes peeled for a C56 Dorian. Definitely check those out. And I don't think you can talk about JBLs without talking about the L100s and the 4311s. I don't know if there's a more iconic speaker out there. You know, the Maxell poster, it's such an iconic image at this point. You know, and even now it just represents vintage audio to me. I see that image and I instantly think of, you know, 70s and 80s music and equipment. Being that it's an L100 in that image, it just adds to the prestige of it even more. I tend to prefer the sound of the 4311s. I don't know if that's in my head. I like the looks of the L100. I think those orange grill cloths are so cool with the waffle style foam inserts in them. I think they're amazing. I love that look. But for some reason, I do think the 4311 is a better sounding speaker. It might just be in my head. I mean, they're the same exact drivers. It's just a different box. So I don't see why that's really a thing, but in my head it is. I've heard the new classic line, the remake of the L100. They've got a pair out at Audio Video Logic, a hi-fi shop here in Urbandale, and I thought they sound incredible, no question. I mean, they're expensive, but you know, I think if you put inflation into it, they're probably the same price as the L100s back in the 70s. The only thing I didn't like about the new classic line is I think the tweeter looks a little cheap. I don't think it looks as well built. It's kind of got a plastic housing where that original tweeter with the I think it's phallic ring or fennec, the you know metal casing with that foam ring in it. It looked like a more well-made tweeter. But the new ones sound great. I like the finish on the new ones. They did a kind of, you know, contemporary finish. I don't think there's any stain. It's just like a natural walnut, and they look incredible. But once again, yeah, they're a little bit expensive. You know, if you've got the money and you want a brand new set with, you know, no dings and scratches or whatever, they're incredible. It'd be cool if they made a 4311, but I guess for now we just get the L100s, and I can kind of see why. If you haven't heard a pair of L100s or 4311s, you really should go hear a pair. It's one of those things that you'll never have trouble selling it. Just don't overpay for it. You know, use them for 6 months or a year. If it's not your thing, sell them. You know, maybe you'll end up making a couple $100 on them. Who knows? So the iconic JBL 4311 and L100 speakers are, I think it's a must hear for anybody that's into vintage audio. I really do. They are that good. So anyway, go check out a pair. And because we can't really, you know, we can't just talk about every one of the JBLs in the list from the 60s and 70s. I want to mention the L66s, the Horizons. Those are incredible speakers. We're not going to go really too far into those. The only thing I don't like about the 66 is the grill. If that material, that plastic egg crate gets dented, we're just not going to be able to get it anyway. Unless somebody starts 3D printing those inserts, make sure the grills are in really good shape because they are going to be very hard to come by. But that is an amazing tweeter in that L66 too. If you can grab yourself a pair of JBL L66 Horizons, grab them. But the last speaker I want to talk about, and one that gets overlooked, and also you don't see them very often, is the L26. My buddy, who's the JBL guy, says the same thing. You hear this, it's kind of like the Marantz guys are always talking about the 2010 and the 2015, how they think they sound better than the large Marantzes. It's the same thing with JBL. When you know a JBL person that's really listened to a lot of JBL speakers, they, like myself, usually say that L26, there's something special in it. And it's just a small two-way speaker. I usually prefer two ways. I do have some three-way speakers, but I usually prefer two. And the L26 is I mean, for the size, that speaker hits way above its size. If you can get a pair of L26s, grab them. Even if you got to overpay for them a little bit, you know, there's something in that speaker that is just special. I've heard 2 or 3 sets. I think the next pair that come in the door is probably going to go on a shelf, and you know, maybe the next pair will be for sale. But it's one of those things where I thought, you know, they were more common than they are, and then I haven't seen them for a long time. So One of those regrets in that I should have kept a pair, but then again, I can't keep every set of speakers. I've got too many speakers already. We've all got this problem. You know, most of you out there know this. You're not watching this channel for any other reason other than you're addicted, just like me. But what a great addiction. I always say that. I say that at the shop all the time. Out of all the addictions I've had, this is by far the greatest addiction in that you usually don't end up losing money. And if you've got enough storage space, you're not going to lose your wife or your job or anything like that over it. I don't usually see that happening. Anyway, that is our JBL list. Those are our favorites. I didn't put them in order. I don't want to rank them. I mean, they all have really good attributes, whether it's cosmetics or sound or whatnot. Go out and listen to them. I'm not going to describe the sound because it doesn't matter. They all sound really good. Hope you enjoyed looking at the pretty pictures and talking about JBL, which is such a great company. Go check out the Lansing Heritage site. It is a lot of fun. They've done a really good job, preserving that information. So with that, we'll let you go, and thanks.